What's up? Hey guys, it's Ivan, and in this video I wanted to give you my summary slash review of this Expert Secrets backend product, which is called, I think it's called Hero's Journey with Deegan and Michael. If it's not, it's going to be called something like Expert Secrets Storytelling. I don't remember now. I bought it a while ago, and if you've seen my previous videos, just like last few weeks, you'll see this Expert Secrets Lounge tab at the top of like most of my videos because I was still in the process of going through all of this. So this is basically what you get as an upsell when you buy the Expert Secrets book. When you get that, this is like the only way you can get access to it. You can't buy it separately anywhere. It would only have to be through that upsell through the Expert Secrets book. And you have here all these different audiobooks, and I've done my review on these two, Expert Secrets and .com Secrets. So again, I didn't read the book, I listened to the audio. And then here is kind of this hero's journey. And I wanted to summarize this and see if this was useful, because really this is like the product that is being sold. Is being upsold after you buy the Expert Secrets book. All right. So I'll get into a little bit more detail in the PowerPoint slide when I discuss it. But that's about it for that. So let's jump in. I'm gonna go in here. Sorry, let's go to the beginning. So a hero's journey with DAEGAN SMITH and Michael HAUGE or HAUGE. I'm not sure how to say it. I forgot. So summary and review. So DAEGAN SMITH is known as one of the top internet marketer, internet marketing experts. So like MLM. And right now, you know, he holds webinars, he teaches people, he's got a website, he regularly updates the site, he puts different kind of posts and such to help people with, you know, these two main things, leads and money. And again, there's the website if you want to check him out and learn a little bit more about one of the authors. The other one is Michael HAUGE. I'll say HAUGE. He's been one of Hollywood's top script consultants. So he's been working in Hollywood for over 30 years. So incredible stuff. He tells an anecdote about how he was with Will Smith over the phone, you know, the first time, and then he started working with him. So pretty cool, right? You get to know kind of this expert that made your childhood, right? Made those movies live for you, right? And kind of who wrote those stories? Well, this guy consulted and helped in writing out the stories and the scripts for them, right? So he's worked with people like Tom Cruise, Will Smith, Reese Witherspoon, Roberts, Morgan Freeman. I'm not a big movie guy, but I still know who all those people are, okay? So pretty popular figures, and he's presented, you know, lectures and workshops to more than 70,000 participants worldwide. So what is this recorded seminar about? This, you know, this recorded program that you potentially buy as an upsell to Expert Secrets? Well, if you recall our summary on Expert Secrets on that book, which I listened to the audio again, we talked about storytelling, right? And how as a leader, you need to be able to write a good story and then include that in your website, right? As you describe yourself so people buy from you, include that in your emails. Of course, that is incredibly important because like we said, people, you know, there's tons of scammers these days. And when people see emails, they just say, you know, get out, I don't want this email, unsubscribe, right? Some of the times. So what you want to do is not be like that, okay? There are some email marketers who are good and who actually make you look forward to the next email. And the way they do that is by making kind of this storyline that gets you intrigued, right? Like movies or like TV shows or serials, right? Where you get intrigued and you want to watch more and you're looking forward to the next thing. So that's exactly kind of what the point of storytelling is. And this recorded seminar goes into much more detail into storytelling, how to tell a good story, what parts, what stages are required to do that, what's the point of it, what are we trying to accomplish, stuff like that. All right. So from Expert Secrets, we said there's three, like a story has three good components: the character, the desire, and the conflict. And we kind of use that as our basis, okay, for Expert Secrets, for some of the things Russell Brunson talked about. Now, for this seminar, he goes into more detail into each of those, but he also defines them a bit differently, all right? So he says it must be a hero, so someone not necessarily, you know, not necessarily a character who is there and who is necessarily heroic, but someone who's given the opportunity to be heroic, right? So again, think of Lord of the Rings, right? Frodo, like he doesn't have all these traits, right? Like he's a really shy guy, right? You wouldn't expect him to be this big leader that the whole world would depend on, but yet he was, because he was given this opportunity to be heroic. Instead of the desire, okay, Michael HAUGE specifies and says it must be an outer motivation. So again, this is kind of a summary of what's going on in this recorded seminar, okay? But of course, he goes into more detail into all this. So he talks about, instead of just a desire, it must be an outer kind of motivation. So it must be an outer desire rather than just say, you know, here's a person and he wants to be successful, or he wants to increase his self-esteem. Well, you can't really see that. As an audience, you can't picture that. So what Michael is saying is when you're painting this picture for your audience, right? And he's got the storytelling script. Like he's got a Hollywood background. He doesn't have any background in online marketing, but all these concepts still apply to you right now as an online marketer. And so what he's saying is it must be explicit and visible. So instead of saying this person wants to increase his self-esteem, which leaves you thinking like, what does that look like? What does self-esteem look like? Make a specific and well-defined goal. Like this person wants to, I don't know, he wants to be loved by every single person in the school. That's his goal. By the end of the year, he wants to be able to have a good conversation with everyone in the school. Or say something like this person wants to win the state championship and be very popular among everyone. Okay, like that's very specific, and that's something tangible. That's something that the reader, you can put your mind on and picture, right? Because that's the point. What we're saying here is we need to be able to kind of make the story emotional, right? Of course. And the way we could do that is, well, let's start by actually being able to show the audience what these characters are going through. And then for the conflict, right, again, it must be an outer and visible conflict, nothing like something going on inside. Like this guy's got so many emotions battling within him, like it's something you can't see unless you actually make a movie of like emotions fighting. Like I think there's this one cartoon of like all these emotions fighting, like fear and happiness and anger, right? You've probably heard of it. It was released like 1 or 2 or maybe 3 years ago. But basically, the conflict must also be external and visible, and you must see what's going on. Usually something like another person, an antagonist, or some outer events and consequences, right? So to have a good story, right, the hero must not only have a visible external journey, but also a journey in like within that person, right? Because we want to be able to put ourselves in that hero's shoes and kind of see how this hero went from being low XXX, whatever it is, to being high in XXX. So maybe in being super afraid of everything to being courageous, from having low self-esteem to having high level, from being very unpopular to being very popular, right? That's usually the theme of like every movie. You see this growth for not only the character but an external progress. So let's go through this in a little bit more detail. So the seminar is about 4.5 hours long. So let me say how it kind of, right, I told you I'll go back and show you like roughly what each part means. So as you saw, there was Heroes Part 1 and Heroes Part 2, and then there was, sorry, Heroes Part 1, Part 1, Heroes Part 1, Part 2, and then Heroes Part 2, Part 1, Heroes Part 2, Part 2. So in the last two, in the latter two, Heroes Journey Part 1 and 2, Michael Hague basically talks about all these things, all right? So he talks about all these, and he goes into detail, and he gives tons of examples, all right? In the first two, so in Hero's Journey Part 1 and Part 2, DAEGAN Smith actually tells his story. So it takes about 45 minutes for him to tell his story. And then Michael and the audience kind of tear it apart and criticize it and say what could have been done better, what was done well, etc., etc. Okay, so very useful for you to apply to your own story, because if you really loved the way DAEGAN told his story and then you hear all these professional critiques about it, that's something you can really apply and say, aha, okay, so you're right, this could have been done better this way, right? So it'll really help you when you write a story yourself, and it's something that just goes in the back of your mind. Even if you're not going to use it now, that's something that you will still find useful, and it just changes the way you think, all right? So that's very important. So here's some of the main things the seminar goes over, and really this is like the latter two parts, but then you can apply this these points really go back to the first two, Hero's Journey 1, Part 1 and Part 2. So he tells you about the 6 stages to storytelling. So he gives you an exact template, okay? Within those 6 stages, there's 5 turning points in which the audience is most likely to abandon your site, so you know where you should focus on. He gives you the 6 questions to ask to understand and employ the hero's inner journey. So remember, we need the external journey and we need the internal journey, right? At least that's what's discussed in the recorded webinar and seminar, sorry. And like that makes sense, right? If you think about any single movie, you feel what that person, what that main character is going through. You can really put yourself in their shoes, and then you can also see kind of the exact progress that's going on outside of their mental state, right? So like I said at the beginning, in Hero's Journey 2, Michael Hague explains the above um, 2 points. I mean, inner journey and external journey, right? So he goes into a lot of detail into that. Gives a ton of examples. In the first part, Deegan shares some pointers for storytelling and tells his own story, which Michael and the audience then analyze bit by bit. Okay, so super useful for you to apply to yourself. So let's go into a little bit more detail into these, so you can see if this was actually useful can be useful for you or not. So the 6 stages to storytelling. So it's the setup where you introduce your hero, you show them in the everyday life, you kind of set this theme, okay? So that's kind of what he says happens in every movie. You set the theme. You create empathy with your character by making them a victim of something, placing them in jeopardy, making them likable, okay? So he gives a ton of examples about movies I actually haven't seen yet. Like I haven't seen Wedding Crashers. I haven't seen Big Fat Greek Wedding. The one movie I could relate to though was Shrek. So I have seen that one. So I was able to actually understand how all these points relate to most of the scenes that are in, well, all of the scenes that are happening, right? And this doesn't necessarily have to be in the same order, but this is a good template, and this is roughly what happens in every single movie. So it starts with a setup, right, of this main hero being introduced. So as you saw maybe in Shrek, from my memory, I think it's right. I haven't seen Shrek for a long time. You see this character, taking a shower in the mud and kind of just living on their own. Okay, so you may not necessarily have this empathy with them right away, but it introduces them and it shows them what they do in everyday life, right? So the new situation is something new is happening, like a new geographical location place. So this is kind of the second stage. So something changes, right? So you have your initial kind of trend at the very beginning, and then boom, something changes, and there's a new situation. There's a new goal. I mean, that's otherwise, what's the point of a story, right? If you just see the character doing the same thing over and over again, it's kind of boring. So there must be this new situation. Next is the progress. So you see the hero doing whatever it is they want to do, and it's working fine so far. Then you see these complications and higher stakes. So it's doing fine, but all of a sudden it's not so fine, and all of a sudden there's this conflict, and the stakes really get higher. So kind of like the world closes in. Okay, so that's the fourth stage. Like there's that conflict, right? So as you can see, all the three elements are here. So the final push, the stakes are so high, it's either take it or leave it, right? It's either you go back and you kind of lose everything you've gained, or you just keep going and you hope you succeed, right? And that's again what you see in most movies. Like again, I'm gonna refer to Shrek, where it's Princess Fiona, right? Princess Fiona is taken by Farquaad. Again, like my memory must be super good because last time I've seen it was like 10 years ago. All right, but Farquaad took Fiona, and so Shrek kind of has this final push. You know what? I'm gonna barge in there and I'm going to rescue Fiona, or I'm gonna go back to my swamp and kind of now I'm gonna be depressed and life is just not gonna be the same, right? Because I put in so much time, I put in so much effort. I love this person and she's lost, right? And then the aftermath. So after you do that, what happened? Like after he saves Fiona, what is kind of this cause and effect? What is this change for the character, for their inner desire and the outer journey? Like what happened? What's the conclusion of all this, right? These are the 6 stages. And again, Michael gives a ton of examples and he illustrates them more if you're interested and you want to see a bit more. The next thing is the 5 turning points. So the 5 turning points are actually in between these stages. So for example, we have the setup, and then at about the 10% mark of the movie, and it happens, 10%, 25, 50, 75, 100%. So it goes in a linear fashion, like every 25%, you can say. But at about 10%, there's this opportunity, okay? So again, I'm gonna go back to Shrek. This is where you would present your hero with something that will cause that desire. So what's that opportunity at about 10% mark in Shrek? Well, it's all those fairy tales ending up in Shrek's swamp, right? And that creates Shrek's desire to say, get the hell out of my swamp. That's his desire. And so his goal here is to go to Lord Master Farquaad and to tell him to get all those critters the hell out of his house, right? So that's kind of the preliminary goal, right? That's just the first goal, because his ultimate goal is not to talk to Farquaad, right? Like later on, his goal is to save the princess in order to be able to please Lord Farquaad, so he helps out. But the first part is him going to Lord Farquaad. And then again, we have the new situation. So this is where he goes to Lord Farquaad. And then turning point. So here's where there's this change of plan. So here's where the hero begins pursuing the other motivation. What's the other motivation in Shrek? Well, he goes to Lord Farquaad, and then there's a change of plans. Instead of just Lord Farquaad saying, yep, that's it, you're done, you're good to go, I'm going to remove all those creatures from your swamp. What does he say? He says, save Princess Fiona, and then I will remove all these creatures, right? So here's this clearly visible endpoint desire. That's kind of like the goal of the whole movie now. Will Shrek get Fiona, right? And this is where it starts. Shrek goes to save Fiona from the dragon. And this is where it begins. This is where the hero begins to pursue this other outer motivation, save Fiona. Then you have the progress, you know, the hero's walking through with Donkey and trying to find where this castle is. And then there's a turning point, the point of no return. Here's where the hero crosses the path and basically has to finish what they started, or go back to their life, and it's just not the same, right? So this happens at about the 50% mark. In Shrek, maybe you could say something like point of no return, when he actually does save Fiona. Now Fiona's with him, and now it's like, okay, well, like I can't put Fiona back in the castle, right? So I'm gonna need to like carry on with this. So I might as well ask Fiona out and tell her how I feel, right? Because otherwise it's like, what's the point? Or you could say Shrek already asked Fiona out, and now it's like, okay, well now, like I've already done this, I can't go back, right? So that happens at about the 50% mark, followed by complications and higher stakes. Hey, Shrek is a nasty ogre, and everyone knows he's an ogre, and Shrek knows that everyone knows that he's an ogre, and he's nasty, and no one's gonna want him. So that's not cool, that's not interesting. Like people are grossed out, right? And then the turning point at the 75% mark. There's this major setback. The conflict becomes so big, a reader thinks all is lost. This, you could say, is where Farquaad comes in and takes Fiona from Shrek. And I think gives him the deed. I think from what I remember, he gives him kind of this message saying, yes, all the creatures can now leave your swamp. I think that's the case. But Farquaad takes Fiona. So now the reader thinks, well, that's it. You know, Farquaad's got all the power. Farquaad is this king. Farquaad has all the knights. Shrek has nothing but Donkey. So, you know, it looks like everything is lost. Our goal here of Shrek getting Fiona is crumbled. It's done, right? And at that point in time, like I remember right now, I was pretty sad, right? I was pretty sad at that point because you know this goal, you know your goal that Shrek wants to reach Fiona, and you know here it's crumbled, right? And then followed by the final push, all or nothing. So Shrek goes in and actually tries to save Fiona. He barges into the church where they're about to be married, and he stops the marriage, right? That's that all or nothing push. Either I'm going to do it or I'm just going to go back and live my life again as it was, but it won't be the same. And then the turning point, the climax, what happens? Did Shrek save Fiona in the movie? Yes, he did. So he was able to save her and all is well, right? And then you have this aftermath for like 5 minutes of the movie where, or not even 5, like 2 minutes of the movie where you see them all happy and dancing and whatnot, right? So it ended well. It was both a good inner journey for Shrek. As you saw, he kind of, he became himself, right? He wasn't afraid of being himself anymore. And that's his inner journey. Before he was afraid, now he can be himself again. And then the outer journey is, of course, he gets Fiona, right? So these are basically kind of the template that Michael says it applies to every movie, every book, like every good story ever, right? And this is something you can apply in your story, not only on your website, as you're saying, hey, here's me, here's how I started off, buy my products, I know what I'm talking about, here's my story. And this is where you would put all of this in. This is an awesome template you can use because this works. This works. This has been working in Hollywood, who are the masters of emotional appeal, right? This is how you make and manage that emotion and instill it into your audience. So yeah, use this template, right? Use it anywhere, emails, your website, etc., etc. So the other thing I'll briefly mention is we can't forget the hero's inner journey. That is also important. We can't just, like, Shrek would not be the same if we only cared about, you know, and if Shrek's emotions were closed. Like if we couldn't see what Shrek was thinking. And you know, you have that character, you have Donkey there to kind of probe and to ask Shrek questions, which allows us to see how he thinks, right? And therefore, like, what's going on in his mind and the difference between him at the beginning and him at the end. We have Donkey to do that. But imagine if we didn't have Donkey. Imagine if all you saw is Shrek going in and showing no emotion, talking to no one. Just he comes in, he saves Fiona. Fiona gets taken away. He comes in, he saves her again from Lord Farquaad being married, and he lives happily ever after. The story wouldn't be the same because there's no inner journey. Think about it. If all you see is Shrek going for Fiona, and then he rescued her, and then she got taken away again, story wouldn't be interesting without you being able to put yourself in that person's shoes, without you feeling those emotions and what's going on in that person's head. So you must have the inner journey as well. So if you're unsure about how to make this inner journey, right, here's some questions you can ask. What is the hero's longing, missing life piece? What was the character's wound? What is the hero's belief? What is the hero's fear? What is the hero's identity? Where's the hero's essence? So let's start from the beginning briefly, kind of break it down. So the hero's longing, missing life piece, something that the hero really wants, something the hero doesn't have. So for Shrek, hey, it's friends, it's love, right? Every time he tries to make friends, people chase him away. People don't like him, and I think he shares that, right? With Donkey in the movie, he says, you know what? It's not a problem with me. It's a problem with everyone else, because every time they see me, they say, oh, hey, big, nasty ogre, and they just run away. So heroes longing for love, for support, for friends, right? What is the character's wound? Well, that's I guess that would be the same thing, right? So the missing life piece would be relationships, right? And then the character's wound would be he's getting hurt by people leaving and abandoning him all the time. So what is the hero's belief? No one likes me. No one likes a big, ugly ogre. What is the hero's fear? If I do make a new friend, if I do try to make a relationship, people are just going to abandon me again. What is the hero's identity? So identity is what the hero actually, so it's not who is the hero in reality, it's actually who does the hero portray himself to be. And the essence is who the hero is in reality. So identity, so Shrek's identity is this big nasty ogre who is really tough and who doesn't need friends and who doesn't need anybody, right? That's his identity. And his essence is this really fluffy, nice dude, right? Who actually wants to make friends, but he's afraid. So if you want to figure out your inner conflict, look through all these questions and then ask yourself this. I'll do whatever it takes to achieve blank. Just don't ask me to do blank because that's just not me. So answer this and you will be able to kind of, it will take you on the right path towards finding out your inner conflict. So, I'll do whatever it takes to save Princess Fiona. Just don't ask me to be super nice and super friendly because that's just not me. Okay. And then that tells you a little bit of something. That tells you about what Shrek's fear is, what his belief is, what the wound is, what is that missing piece. Okay. So rough summary of all this, a little bit more detailed than it should be. But at the same time, not as detailed because Michael goes into much more detail into all of them. So my review on this is I actually did find this recorded seminar to be incredibly useful. Unlike the previous book review we've done on Convert Every Click, this recorded seminar actually provided me with valuable content from start to finish. I didn't know pretty much everything of what was taught to me. All about this storytelling stuff I really did not know and did not hear about before. So it's super useful, again, if you're developing your attractive characters. We discussed an expert secret, so it's definitely a good addition to your expert secrets knowledge. So if you got expert secrets, see if you can find a way to also check this out. Again, I'll put my affiliate link to expert secrets down below. If you're interested, check it out. No extra cost to you. So like I said, it gives you a super cool template to use, right? That you can just use anytime. Just take it and keep it with you. And whenever you'll be writing a story, you'll always have it there. It's filled with, it's filled with humor, this recorded seminar, and filled with small tips and suggestions. So it's not like the only thing he talks about is this. There's a ton of different small tips and suggestions. I wrote 5 pages on this. Let me see. Let me count how many pages I did. I got 1, 2, right? I had 1.5, 2, 3, 4. So I had 3.5, almost 4 pages on this. Right? Just taking notes. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. All right. So ton of valuable stuff, and I write really condensed, and I write like the main thing. But if you're gonna write like most everything that he says, you'll have way more than these 3.5 pages as I do. All right. And throughout kind of this journey, Michael talks about a ton of different movies, and it just makes me want to go back and rewatch those movies, to be honest, right? It makes me want to go back and see, like, what is this he's talking about? Like, let me see if this actually does follow the template Michael is referring to. So really interesting, and I actually did turn on Wedding Crashers shortly after watching this movie just to see. I got a little bit bored at the first 10 minutes, to be honest, so I just went back to do my work. But point is, like it really makes you wanna get in and see if this what he's talking about relates. And you know what it does? Even after the first 10 minutes of Wedding Crashers, you see that it does follow those first two steps, as we've discussed, right? The first two stages. So that's about it. If you guys enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. For those of you that have subscribed, thank you. I do appreciate it. If you guys have any comments, questions, or concerns, leave them down below. Let me know what you thought, whether you got this kind of back-end package or you didn't, or you're thinking of getting it, and maybe what questions you can have, or if you did get it, share your thoughts, share your experiences. What did you think on it? Right? Was it useful for you? Was it non-useful for you? Stuff like that. Let me know. Let everyone know. So that's about it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.